Brian Kerr, the Irish football legend, is on the line. Brian, you were at that final. How did that come about?
I was, John. I was young, living in Dublin, obviously, at the time, and I had an elder brother, Frankie, who was now passed away, unfortunately. But Frankie was living and working in London at the time, as so many people in Ireland had family and had siblings abroad. He had been there from when he was 15, 16. And he was working in a pub at the time. He was managing a pub called the Gunnersbury Arms, which is not too far away from Acton train station, which I've passed quite frequently in recent seasons on my way back and forward to matches. But anyway, Frankie called my parents the night the first match was played, the World Cup. The group was England and Uruguay, a 0-0 draw. And he asked my father, could I go over if he managed to get his hands on tickets for matches. My father agreed, and I was duly put on a plane in the next couple of days. And off I went to London, and I went to a lot of games. I was at that was the only game I missed in England's group, actually. The group was Mexico, France, England and Uruguay, and I saw the rest of the games of the group, and then I stayed on. My brother remarkably was able to get tickets for England's quarter-final against Argentina, the semi-final against Portugal, the third-place playoff, Portugal and Russia, and the final itself against West Germany. I don't know how he did it, how he managed it, but what I do know is that the man for tickets, even for the World Cup itself in England, wasn't anything like it would be in these modern times. I mean, he wasn't particularly interested in football himself. He was interested in boxing. But how he managed to do it, I don't know, particularly for the final. But one remarkable match I was at, John, and it is kind of strange to remember back on this. There was a match played in the White City Greyhound Stadium between France and Uruguay, and I often wondered why that was. Now, it was only in recent years I checked it out, and seemingly the reason was that that match was fixed for a Friday, and there was greyhound racing due in Wembley Stadium on the Saturday, and whoever owned Wembley Stadium decided that the greyhound racing had to go ahead on the Saturday, so the match was changed to the White City Greyhound Stadium. And that's how I ended up in White City. The only time in my life I was ever in White City Greyhound Stadium, although I think QPR played there after. But anyway, there I saw all those games, and I saw 5 of England's games out of the 6 games they played, including the remarkable final and the commentary that you just had there with Kenneth Wilson home, which I didn't hear till afterwards because I was at the match.
How much of a thrill was it on the day to be at the World Cup final, Brian? You're a young lad, you're a teenager, England against West Germany, and how vivid is it now?
Well, you know, it was massively exciting. I mean, at that time, we didn't see too much football on the television. You went to live games here. I was already going to international matches in Davymount Park and watching the Irish team playing. But there weren't many home games in the season. There might be 3 or 4 maximum, I'd say. Other than that, our standard diet was of League of Ireland football, which I went to plenty of games, and the odd European match and so on, and junior football, which I went to plenty of. But so to go to the World Cup itself, I mean, I'd seen bits on the old Pata News coverage from 1962 and 58, little snippets and bits and pieces, but there was no real coverage as such, like a full games. It was the English Cup final, I think it was on the TV, maybe 61, 62, I remember that, with Spurs, Leicester, Spurs, Burnley, a couple of successive years there, then West Ham and Preston with Alan Kelly and so they were the earliest matches, but we only maybe 1 or 2 matches a season. The odd England away match might be on television. So if you actually go to the World Cup and having, I was used to reading the history of the World Cup and the start, the origins of it, and to go and see the games, and these players. We didn't know much about the continental players. I knew a lot about Portugal because Benfica were a top team at the time with so many fantastic players. But, you know, we were only reading about the other players from the Soviet Union, from Mexico, Argentina. I mean, Brazil were there. We knew about Brazil, but we didn't get to see Brazil because they got knocked out. They played up in the northwest, and they got knocked out by well, they were in the group with Portugal,
and Hungary.
Portugal, Hungary was the fourth team in the group. But anyway, they got knocked out. So we never got to see Brazil. They didn't even get through the group.
Bulgaria, I think they were.
Bulgaria is the fourth team, yeah. Four in each group, 16 teams, top two getting through to the quarterfinal. Quarterfinal was played on a Saturday, I remember well, the match with Argentina. A famous game for the sending off of the captain, Ratti, and he refused to go off the pitch, and the game was held up. I remember it being very, very hot, John, and been standing on the terrace behind the goal that England were defending at the time. And at the far end, there was a scoreboard because there was another match on at the same time, Portugal and North Korea. And there was no kind of automatic scores coming up. A guy had to physically go out and put up a score when there was a goal. So you could see him walking along this kind of a platform very high up over Wembley Stadium. And we presumed he was going over early on to put the first goal for Portugal. But he proceeded on to North Korea and put up one. So it was Portugal and North Korea 1. And then he went back again and went 2. And then he went back again and went 3. So North Korea were 3 up. That was nearly more entertaining than the England match.
Yeah.
Because the match was dull. And
Daniel McDonnell, you got the names now of those scoreboard operators who are from Ireland.
Eddie O'Keefe and Michael O'Sullivan were two lads from Waterford who basically, they'd left secondary school and they went to go to England in the 60s, you know, as a lot of people did. So they went to the Labour Exchange and they were given 2 options in the Labour Exchange to get some work. They offered us 2 things: working in the gardening section for the council or working in Wembley Stadium for the World Cup. There wasn't much competition and they soon graduated to the scoreboard, and that's how they ended up doing the scores for the final. I'm not sure if they were doing it on that quarter-final day that Brian mentioned. By the time the final came round, they graduated to the top job. So there we go.
Well, can you believe?
Sorry, Johnny. It's mad that Brian mentions that because, and this is a game that'll be very, very close to his heart. When I was looking back on the North Korea-Portugal game, and I was thinking, where have I seen a game before when one team was 3-0 up and lost 5-3, and straight away Shelbourne against Rangers in Prenton Park in Tranmere, and that particular game clashed with St. Pat's getting a 0-0 draw with Celtic. And I watched I watched that game, Brian, in Yonkers in New York. I remember I spent the summer in New York, and all I could do was try to find a place where I could watch Pats and Celtic. I just got into League of Ireland at the time. But one of the most memorable aspects of that game was the scoreboard coming through from Prenton Park. Rangers 1-0 down to Shelbourne, 2-0 down to Shelbourne, and 3-0 down to Shelbourne. And this came up on the screen, and everyone in the pub was laughing it up.
Well, what I remember, you know, from the game, I think the lad that was the Waterford lad, if it was him, he had a white coat on him like an umpire in Crow Park, maybe doing a match, right? And he had to walk across. I'd say there might have been danger money involved, and that's why they took it rather than cutting the grass in the parks. They might have been extra because they had to climb up the ladder, I think. And walk across this narrow platform, and to get out as far as North Korea was a good bit out now. Not North Korea, the place, just the edge of there. Just the edge of where North Korea.
North Korea was always hard to get to.
It was hard to get into and hard to get out of. Anyway, by the time he got to 3, anyway, there was a lot of oohs and ahs in the crowd because the English game was quite dull, right? And then. I think if memory serves me right, not too long after it was 3-0, Portugal got going. Eusebio started doing the stuff, and Torres and Coluna and Simões, the little fella Simões, a very good player. Gusto, they had a really good team, Portugal. Anyway, the goals started coming. I think maybe by half time it was 3-2, and ultimately, as you said, it was 5-3, and Eusebio got 4 goals. So I was looking forward to seeing that semi-final game, which was a great game. The game England-Portugal in the semi-final, and Bobby Charlton got the 2 goals. But Eusebio, the brilliance of Eusebio, I mean, Mozambique, Pearl, he was such an athlete. There was such style and power about him. And funny enough, I actually sat beside him one day at an international match in Dublin when we played Portugal a good few years back, and if ever I was in awe of someone, I rarely asked someone for his autograph, but I did that day. But I couldn't explain to him that I'd seen him in 1966. I kind of wanted to, but that was a brilliant game, and I was at the third place playoff with Russia, and I think it came down to a late penalty. It was 1-1, and it was Eusebio against the legendary Lev Yashin in goal for Russia, and I was in line with the penalty spot where Eusebio was going to take the penalty, and I kind of, Yashin was a hero of mine. We were kind of, he was one of those guys we knew. He wore all black. As a goalkeeper, he was all black with just the number 1 on his back, right? But anyway, Eusebio buried the penalty, and I think I remember Eusebio going up and shaking hands with him after he scored the penalty, and then picked up the ball and ran back to the halfway line with it. And so they won the third place playoff, 2-1 win. That would have been probably on the Friday night, and then the final was on Sunday. So the final was on Saturday. So I was back and forward to Wembley a few times that week. Sometimes I was brought by people, friends of my brothers, but I kind of remember being at the matches on my own, and surviving without any bother. So you imagine a kid at 13 days' time going to matches to World Cup final on his own. There you are.
Yeah, 53106. Dogs on the Monday, Wednesday, Friday was a bigger earner than football for the owners. Great night out in London. Great programme, lads. That is from Seamus in Killarney. Brian Kerr spent many days in Harold's Cross Greyhound Stadium when he was manager of St. Pat's. That is from Martin. This is just gas. We got a text in here. My husband, Eddie O'Keefe, and his friend Michael O'Sullivan from Waterford were scoreboard keepers in 1966 in Wembley for the World Cup. That's from Colette O'Keefe in Waterford. Colette, fair play to you for texting
Colette,
in.
get the man on the show.
Brian, what was that final like?
Well, look, I think most people are interested in football. I've seen it in some of its guises now. It's been dickied up in full colour and all now. It was a remarkable match to be at. I remember things like every German person in the ground seemed to have a yellow, red and black flag, small flags, and I can see them waving English flags. I can't really remember so much of that, but there was a lot of various flags and banners around the place. But remarkable atmosphere. Again, very warm day. I remember I was sitting not too far from the Queen actually as that happened. I was up. I don't know how my brother pulled that one out, but I had a £3.10 ticket that was up not too far from the Royal Box, right? So I had a very, very good view of the match. I mean, the change in fortunes, the scoreline, the match 2-1, England looking like they're going to win it. And late goal for Germany to get it back, goes to extra time. Horst gets the 3 goals. I remember being disappointed Greaves wasn't playing because he was one of my heroes, Jimmy Greaves. He played in a couple of the group games, but he got injured, I think, in the last group match against France, and then he didn't play in the quarter-final and semi-final. And Alf Ramsey stuck with, Horst, Peters, Hunt, the midfield, with Ball and Charlton, Styles in the middle of the pitch. So Graves didn't get a game in the final, which was, given the outstanding player he was, an outstanding goal scorer of that era for a long, long period, right through the 60s and into the 70s. He was a fabulous player. But I remember being personally disappointed that Graves didn't play. But, Horst's performance on day and the goals and the controversy of the ball and the goal come down off the crossbar, is a goal, is it not? I'm waiting to see. It was just unbelievable. I was probably too young to appreciate how astonishing it was to be at a World Cup final as a kid, and to understand the tactical side of the game, because it was a new game, a new style in terms of England, the work rate and 4 midfield players, no wingers. He played Terry Payne in one of the matches. He played Ian Callaghan in one of the matches. But as he got to the quarter-final, semi-final, the final, didn't play wingers at all. They were all midfield players playing the wide position. And then, Wilson and Cohn as the full-backs, Charlton and Moore, the elegance of Moore. But Jeremy had brilliant players as well. Young Beckenbauer, Snellinger, one of the full-backs. I remember Zuvi Seeler, centre-forward, a baldy fella. Ziggy held up front with him. Seeler actually was one of those that played in the League of Ireland. You know that question, name the World Cup winners who played in the League of Ireland, and people always forget Uwe Seeler played, I think, a match for Cork Celtic when he had some relationship with Cork.
That is gas, that story. I never knew that.
Well, there you are. There's one for I think he wasn't young. Like he wouldn't have got in. He would have been. He would have been a banger for under 35 football now. I think he was in the 40s when he played for Cork Celtic. But Uwe Seeler, and then they came and won it the next time round. But Seeler, I thought, was a great player. Haller got the first goal. I think he was second highest scorer after Eusebio at that World Cup. But it was just sensational to think back. And I haven't been at a final since. I have to say, you've been at a final since, John. One or two, have you?
One, and Daniel's been at, I think, three.
Three, yeah.
Did you keep any memorabilia, Brian?
I did. Somewhere stashed in the attic, and I'm not bad at holding stuff. But one thing that sticks in my mind was coming out of the last group match England played was Mexico, and I remember leaving the game. It was after the second game England played Mexico. England beat Mexico 2-0, but I think it meant that Mexico were gone because they drew the first match. The France 1-1. But on the way out of the game, in the car park, a Mexican fan gave me his hat, his sombrero, and what he had on it was, the old, the kind of badges he used to get, England to be on it, or up Spain, or those kind of flowery sort of cresty sort of a thing. You pin them on horses. What do you call them when they win?
Rosettes, is it?
Rosettes.
Yeah, rosette sort of a yoke. Yeah.
The Tories wear them, Brian. The Tories wear them.
Who wears them?
We'll get the Tories next week.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay, so the rosettes. A man had a load of them pins to the sombrero. They were of the competing teams, and he must have been leaving. It must have been the end of his trip to England, and he saw me walking through the car park, and he came over to me and he presented it to me, right? So I used to wear it going to the matches with all the different teams, and when you think of it now, like you can't go to a match and wear the opposition's colours and stuff. I didn't care at the time. But I have that stashed away somewhere in the programme, and some pins and bits and pieces. Yeah, I have them. I have some of that stuff still stashed around. I think I have some tickets as well. I think I have the stub of the £3, 10 shillings ticket as well.
Radio Go, lads. What a great show that is from Jason of Walkinstown. Nice one, Jason. Brian, how different was life back then?
It's a good while ago. Well, life was all about, competing. For me, and most of the kids of my age, it was about going to sport, not so much watching sport on the television because it was much more scarce. I mean, there would have been a bit of horse jumping on the telly on the BBC midweek from the White City indoor arena, and we'd have been watching Seamus Hayes and Good Boy winning things, and Tommy Wade and Dundroma horses winning things. That would be on at the odd night, and there'd be cricket on the telly. But it wasn't an awful lot of sport on the telly or football. So I think, like most kids, you were out doing things most of the day. You were out playing sport, playing football, playing whatever, playing hurling, or going to sport. I mean, I went to sport, all sorts of sports. I tell people this, they kind of think I'm a bit mad. Like I once went to a water polo international competition for the weekend out in Blackrock. Outdoor bats. Went to see Wales. I think it was Wales, Scotland, England and Ireland. But I would have gone to anything. I would have went to boxing. I would have been going to Crow Park, watching hurling, football, watching anything. League of Ireland. All sorts of stuff. I think it was motor racing even up in the Phoenix Park. So that's what life is like for us, was finding a few, getting the money to get into things and finding your way to it, getting buses, travelling to events, going to school. It was fairly simple, but the competitive levels of the sport where I lived in Drimnagh was very, very high, because there were so many playing and so much activity. There was no lifts to school or lifts to training or getting it. You had to go on. Your parents kind of showed you the way and let you off, and you had to do it. But I know I used to save my bus fare that I got to go to school. I used to save it. I used to run to school instead and save the money for whatever I wanted. That might involve saving money to go in to see Pats playing or go to an international match or whatever. But I don't think I was that unusual. I think most kids were like that the same. They appreciated getting to games, live sport, and learning about the sports by watching fellas playing, rather than getting it explained to you on the telly by people, by pundits and fellas like that. He says, as a pundit.
Lads, you want to come in there?
I'd be interested, Brian, to, maybe you're not necessarily the right person to ask this, because first of all, you were mad in sport, and second of all, you lived in Dublin. But what was the sporting landscape like in Ireland at that time? Because Micheál Murphy was on Nathan's dad, and he was saying, from his perspective, there wasn't that much interest in soccer, as it would have been known. From a personal perspective, it would have been around the time Galway won the 3 in a row in Gaelic football. And what was the place that soccer, or football as we would call it, had in the national discourse at that time, and did 66 change it?
Well, I think in Dublin soccer was very prominent, and always very prominent. Probably less so in many of the provincial towns until the 66 World Cup, and then of course in Ireland particularly with the Charlton years and the emergence of soccer and soccer clubs in every town and village in the country after that. But at that time, certainly in Dublin, soccer was prominent. But because the educational structures were dominated by the clergy, and particularly the Christian Brothers, who were generally rural people, there was a lot of emphasis on Gaelic games in school. I mean, I played from the time I went to primary school. I played Gaelic, I played hurling football, kind of almost every day there was hurling football in school, and training for the teams and going to watch the teams. I mean, we were strong in St Michael's Inchicore. We were in the finals every year. It seemed to be the seniors or the juniors, as they were called, under 12 or 14s, would be in the finals, and there was great rivalries with other schools around Dublin. But we would have, I would have went to the Railway Cup finals. Religiously is a strange word to use now these days, but I would have went to the Railway Cup finals every year, I'd say, from the time I was about 7. I would have seen, Mick Mackey and Christy Ring and those fellas playing at that time. And, they were legendary fellas. You knew you were going to see something special, even if Leinster weren't playing. I remember some of the times we went, Leinster wouldn't be playing. Other times they would be playing. I was there the day that Leinster played in the 2 finals, and I think Des Foley played in both matches. He played in the hurling, then he played in the football final for Leinster. Can you imagine that? You played the 2 matches, one after the other, and you play in both of them. You're not come on as a sub. You start in both matches. But there was lots going on. But there was, in my head, soccer was the main thing. I was kind of surrounded by where I lived, by people who kind of loved the game, and we could go and watch high level games. Like I said, we could go to Daidamount, you could go to Talca Park easy enough, you could go to Milltown, but of course for me it was the Holy Grail. It was Inchicore, and I could actually walk to it, and I could run out of school and get down to the ground, which we did for cup replays. I remember midweek us just waiting for the moment for the bell to go, that we could run out and get down to the ground. It was only, I'd say, 100 yards from the gate of the school to the Styles where St Pat's played. But, we were very aware of the strength of Gaelic game. And boxing, I think at that time, boxing was strong at that time. Athletics as well, because of Ronnie Delaney's successes. I would have went to the Morton Stadium on a regular basis, Santry as it was called then, to see athletics events with Eamon Cochran was my mate, and we used to go with his dad. and we go to Santry Stadium to see, you know, there would be big international events there in the summer, and you'd be seeing people who had ran in the Olympics or were medal winners at the Olympic Games in maybe 1960, and they'd be running in Santry Stadium. So that was life. Life was about getting through school and waiting on the next big sporting event that you could go to, you know, like whether it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but even midweek, particularly in the brighter nights and brighter summer days, you would go to events in midweek.
53106. Ireland played West Germany shortly before the 1966 World Cup in Delhi-Mount. Ireland lost 4-0. My uncle Bobby Gilbert won his only cap in that game. Well done, Brian. This is Brian Kerr, who's been very generous to come on the show and tell us his memories of the 1966 World Cup. It's our feature year today. He was at the final when England beat West Germany 4-2. Well done, Brian, for saying an overage player is a banger. That's from the Walkinstown Beckenbauer. Dan, you want to come in on anything there?
Oh, listen, I don't know where to come in. I'm just happy to listen to a lot of this. I'm actually curious, Brian. I know it was well before your time managing St. Pat's. I'm trying to think if you were 13 in 66, 1977, what sort of 24, 25. Gordon Banks played that one game for Pat's against Shamrock Rovers. I don't know if you were there or have any sort of recollection of, you know, that
I wasn't there, Daniel. At the time, I was managing somebody else at the time. Not sure what team. It was probably Shell's B team. And I missed it. I missed that game, but I've read about it, and I remember at the time being fascinated by it because, again, Gordon Banks was such a hero. You know, anyone who was interested in football. I mean, he was such a nice guy. He had a legendary career. He was so loyal to Stoke. He played for Stoke, and you know, he never went to one of the kind of teams that were always winning. Let's say there was no traditional top six as them, but he didn't go. And, you know, he had lost the eye in a car accident, hadn't he? He played a bit in America. And then he played a match for Pats. Rovers. Pats won 1-0, I think.
Pats and Rovers anyway, yeah. I think he was 40 at the time.
He made a legendary save from Eamon Dunphy shot to me out of the top corner. He hadn't played too much, I think, before it. But it was only one game. Pat had a kind of a history of that sort of getting in players, either English or Scottish players were well known. Barry Bridges was the manager for a few years and he used to bring in players. Remember, the Scotch fella, George Luke, and then another manager, John Coleraine, Scottish manager, he played for Celtic, and he managed player manager of Glentoran when they did very well in the European Cup, got to the quarter-final. And he came to Pats as well. So they were off, and they used to have a bit of money from the bingo at that time. They ran the bingo in several venues around the general area of Inchicore, which I think was quite successful. So they were able to afford to bring in some exotic players, I would have said nearly at that time, exotic in terms of their history. So, you know, I did miss that one, unfortunately. But, you know, that kind of happened, Daniel, as I got more involved in coaching and managing. I wasn't going as much to see them because I was at Shells, like, two spells at Shells. I was playing at Shells, 17, 18, with a year in the B team, and then I managed their B team twice. I managed Rovers youth team when I was 20 actually. I managed Rovers youth team. So I would have been busy with the teams I was managing. I was trying to play a bit as well, not very well, but I was trying to play. So I'd missed a good bit of League of Ireland stuff as I got older because I was directly involved in Sundays and matches. The Friday night stuff suited me better.
53106 for your text messages. God, Brian is a tonic. Would love to share a pint with him sometime. That is from Deck in Cork. Brian Kerr.
We'd all love to share a pint down with me.
Yeah. Brian, don't remind me. I'm kind of ahead of my hands here now, to be honest, at this stage. But you're an absolute gent, Brian. From water polo to Mexican sombreros to England beating West Germany in 1966. You're great to share your memories with Dan and with Johnny and